Joining us here once again today is our favorite bracketologist, JBRBracketology. Folks, he's back. He can attest. I've asked him numerous times to come on, but he wanted more. He wanted it to marinate a little bit more. Let the data marinate so we could have more to talk about on this show. Again, joining us, JBRBracketology. Go give him the follow at JBRBracketology. JBR, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. It's definitely fun kind of getting into the thick of the conference schedules and seeing more and more good teams playing against each other after, we had a quiet period around the holidays. So, just the last 3 weeks, I mean, it's every night is just awesome basketball games. And it continues tonight with Iowa State at Arizona. I know that's not an SEC game, but still, it's a really fun time to be a fan of college basketball, and March is not that far away. It's really not.
No, I 100% agree with you. I mean, we'll blink here and we'll be sitting in conference tournaments. I mean, it'll be wild to say we're about to be at the midway point of the league for most leagues. But so, I mean, you were talking a little bit off air. Tell me, when do you go cook up the potion? When is this? We talked a little bit. I don't want to ruin anything from what you're about to say. After the night's done, the games are settled again. We got the West Coast games finish late. When do you go and start crunching the numbers and get these numbers, these analytics out here for you to go conduct the bracketology?
Yeah, I mean, I always wait till the next morning. There's 7 metrics. If you include the net, there's 7 metrics. You have the net, there's 3 resume metrics, and there's 3 predictive metrics. Some of them update quickly, sometimes even within an hour of a game finishing, and some don't update until the next day. And so I typically wait till the next morning so I can get all of the updated numbers, because those are the same numbers that the committee is going to be looking at in March. So once those all get updated the next morning, along with the quad records, I take all of that data and kind of upload it into my master spreadsheet, and I create a new tab in that spreadsheet basically every 3 or 4 days. I do a full seedless update every Monday and every Friday, and I do still update it throughout the week just so I have a cleaner idea, especially when people ask me questions, just so I have a cleaner idea of where teams sit. But I put out the official JBR updates each Monday and Friday, and the same thing with this morning. I waited for all the Saturday and Sunday games to be complete. I waited for all the metrics to be updated, and then I get in the lab, as I like to call it, get in the lab Monday morning, look through all the data. I do have kind of a formulaic approach, at least to start. So, I upload all the data first, and then I go through seed line by seed line and make sure things make sense, or make sure everything that I want to be incorporated in my seed list and inside of each team's score is properly accounted for. Just knowing that there are things that the data cannot account for.
Full-time job right there. Full-time job.
Close to it at times, for sure.
Well, you tell me, let's bring up the new seed line here from our guy over at JBR Bracketology. Again, go give him the follow at JBR Bracketology. JBR, talk to us through it. You can talk nationally if you want here. I mean, I think everybody, our listeners here, watches college basketball in general. Who's kind of the biggest mover? We'll dissect SEC here specifically here in just a minute, but nationally, you can throw an SEC team if they fit this mold. Biggest movement from last week to this week in your new seed line?
I mean, I guess towards the top would be Houston. I mean, they at times have had 0, 1, and 2 quad 1 wins over the last 2 or 3 weeks. But they finally on Saturday night got their elite signature quad 1A win when they went into Allen Fieldhouse and beat Kansas. So, they're still undefeated in the Big 12, even though they kind of stumbled a bit in non-conference play. Now that they have that signature win to pair with their elite predictive metrics, that they are quickly moving up the seed list, and they're probably 2 more quad 1 wins away from jumping certainly Marquette and Michigan State and getting up to where Florida and Tennessee are. So I would say Houston has probably been the biggest riser over the weekend. Louisville out of the ACC, they've been red hot. They lost Keyshawn Pryor, I think in early December. Ole Miss went in there the next game, and just ran them out of the gym. I don't know if you remember that game.
Yeah,
They beat them by 23, I want to say, at Louisville, and it looked like Louisville's season was spiraling. And since that game, although I think they played Kentucky after that too, but since then, I mean, Louisville has been red hot. They are second place in the ACC. I think they're favored in every single game the rest of the season. They might finish 19-1 in the ACC. I'm not kidding. If you look at their schedule, I'm not sure that they lose another game. So they have really been surging up the seed list. I have them at the back end of the five line. Now, the problem is they don't really have any marquee games left either. So even though they keep winning, it's mostly just quad 3 and quad 4 games. So I think realistically their ceiling is probably a 4 seed, but they're definitely a team that's been moving up quickly. And then over in the Big 12, Texas Tech and Arizona have been cleaning up as well. And both teams are playing some really good basketball after stumbling in non-conference. So, you got a few different teams that either they played a weak non-conference schedule or they just didn't win their high-end games in the non-conference. And now that we're getting into the conference schedule and coaches kind of know their teams, know their roster a little bit better, you're seeing the cream rise to the top for sure.
Specifically the SEC here. How many locks would you say are in the NCAA tournament right now from this league?
So if you look, I mean, the seed list you have shared right there, I have my locks in purple. I remember you asked me in December how many locks. I'm like, whoa, no locks yet. It's a little early. But no, I have 8 locks total. I actually went into this past weekend, all 4 of my 3 seeds. I said if any of the 4 won, that they would be a lock, and all 4 of them lost. So I've been at 8 now for a little over a week, but I have 4 SEC teams locked. I have Auburn, Alabama, Florida, and Tennessee. Those 4 are all stone cold locks. I think Florida and Tennessee might need to win one more game technically, but I'm 110% confident that they will win the one more game that they need to between now and Selection Sunday to get there.
What will Auburn have to do? Again, I think they're going to have to lose this. What will they have to do to get off the 1 seed line?
They would probably need to lose at least 5 SEC games, maybe even 6. I mean, they have 11 quad 1 wins already. I think it would be a major upset for Auburn to not end up a 1 seed. I can't promise you they'll be number 1 overall. I know there was some discussion at the end of last week. I think Lenardi had a post about Duke being most likely to be the number 1 overall, which he's technically right just because their schedule is so much easier.
They have the head-to-head.
And they have the head-to-head. So it's really easy if Auburn ends up 16-2, which is an insane schedule in this SEC. But if Auburn ends up 16-2, Duke's probably going to be number 1 overall if they end up 20-0 or 19-1 in the ACC, even though I would argue Auburn going 16-2 in the SEC is a lot more impressive than Duke going 19-1 in the ACC. But at some point, the committee is going to see an Auburn team that has more losses and a Duke team that has a head-to-head win, and they're going to pick Duke. I can tell you right now, they're going to pick Duke if Auburn loses.
That's the scenario.
Yeah, exactly.
Who do you like better getting on that 1 seed line? I mean, I know Alabama's sitting there right now, the 3rd 1 seed. Do you like Alabama to stay there, or you think Tennessee gets back up there? If you had to say right now, who do you think? And again, I know we're predicting games.
Yeah, I mean, that one's a lot harder to say because at the end of the day, it's up to the teams to decide on the court. All these teams have really difficult strength of schedule. Florida's right there too, right? They've lost 2 games all year. Yeah. So, I mean, all those teams are right there. They all have the opportunity to. Alabama plays Auburn twice. If they go 2-0, I can almost guarantee you they'll be a 1 seed. If they go 0-2, they probably won't be a 1 seed. So it's really up to them. Alabama's in the best shape as of now just because of the resume. Alabama's actually number 2 in all 3 resume metrics. I mean, Alabama has played a really difficult strength of schedule and has performed extremely well against that strength of schedule. But we saw them lose at home to Ole Miss a week and a half ago. Anything can happen between now and Selection Sunday. So it's hard to say who will end up there. Yeah. But what I can say is they're all in position to get there for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it wouldn't shock you if Florida. I mean, like you said, all these teams still have plenty of opportunities to go move up seed lines, to your point. That's why the Florida one's interesting, sitting there at 5. Here's my next 2 questions that I'm pretty fired up about, because I think these are some interesting mid-tier SEC teams that still have some work to do. What about Vandy and Missouri, in your opinion? Like, how far off is Missouri becoming a lock to the tournament? Vandy probably got a little more work to do, but what about them as well? Like, how confident do you think Vandy stays in this field, or do you kind of, again, that's going to be up to them, but like from their resume?
Yeah, I'm definitely more confident in Missouri than I am with Vanderbilt for sure. Let me see. Let me pull up Missouri. So Missouri's 16-4, and they're 5-2 in the SEC. So they're in really good shape. If Missouri wins, let me see what their next 2 games are. But generally speaking, 18-4 out of Power Conference League. I'm pretty much ready to lock them. Oh yeah. So Missouri's next 2 games are at Mississippi State and at Tennessee. So yes, if they win their next 2 games, they are 100% a lock. No questions asked. I don't think that they're going to win both of those next 2. My guess is Missouri will become a lock sometime in mid-February when they beat, or if they're able to beat Oklahoma or win at Georgia.
They get Alabama at home, which will be a tough game for Alabama.
Right, and then they get Alabama the 19th. So my guess is Missouri will become a lock somewhere in there, depending on how many games they win over the next couple weeks. And then Vanderbilt's a tier lower for me, just because.
Well, you have the Doors right now at 8 seeds hitting the 32, 32.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things working against Vanderbilt. One of them is their non-conference strength of schedule was really bad.
Brutal.
And there's nothing the committee loves more than hammering teams for non-conference. Vanderbilt's number 337 non-conference strength of schedule entering today, which is not good. And then, Vanderbilt, I would say just looking at their overall resume, it's a little bit top heavy. Those wins versus Tennessee and Kentucky are awesome, but they really don't have much else behind it. They beat Nevada in the Charleston Classic back in November, but Nevada's completely fallen apart. They beat Seton Hall, who's the worst team in the Big East. They beat LSU on the road, but LSU is probably going to finish in the bottom 3 of the SEC, so they just don't really have anything else to help them besides those 2 great wins. They're projected to go 8-10 in the SEC right now in KenPom. I think that's what they're going to need to get. 8-10, they're in the field, but I worry that 7-11 might not be enough, but it depends on who the wins are against. If they can get a win at Florida, at Tennessee, at Kentucky, at Texas A&M. I mean, if they can steal one of them, I'm certainly not expecting them to win multiple, but if they can win another elite win, especially away from home, because that's really something they're lacking right now. If Vanderbilt can score an elite win away from home, that could be enough at 7-11 to get them in.
7-11 potentially. So you think 8-10, they're good?
8-10, I'm very confident. Yeah, at 8-10, I don't think it matters who the wins come against. Given that they've already beaten Tennessee and Kentucky, if they get to 8-10, which is only 4 more wins of their remaining 11 games. So if they can finish 4-7, then they're in. Yeah, I feel very confident in that.
What about Ole Miss? I mean, they got the big win against Alabama, then they've lost 3 straight to at Mississippi State in overtime. They lost that heartbreaker A&M midweek, this past week, and then they lost to Missouri in a tough road game. And none of them are bad losses. Do you feel like, are they slipping down a little bit, or you're like, I don't know, maybe too early to panic? I feel like they'll make the tournament, but what's your thoughts on them?
I mean, none of them are bad losses, first and foremost, right? So that's the most important thing to remember. None of them are bad losses. They, I have them, as you see right there, I have them a 5 seed. That win at Louisville that we talked about earlier has aged beautifully. That's a fantastic win.
It wasn't the ACC SEC challenge. They got them. Yeah.
And that win at Alabama is huge. I mean, if Alabama ends up a 1 seed, if you look at my 4 1 seeds right now, right? Auburn, Duke, Alabama, Iowa State combined, they have lost 1 game at home. That 1 game at home was Ole Miss beating them on their home court. So that is as elite of a win as you can possibly get, is beating a 1 seed on their home court. So, no, when I look at the win at Alabama, the win at Louisville, and then they also have a neutral court win over BYU. I have BYU out of the field right now, but BYU is number 31 in KenPom. So there's a good chance that BYU, if we believe in KenPom and believe in predictive metrics, which I would like to, at least to an extent, then, I think there's a pretty good chance that BYU ends up in the tournament as well. So, you've got a couple really good non-conference wins away from home. BYU was in neutral court. Louisville was at Louisville. And you already have as elite of a win as you can get with their win at Alabama. So they've got the high-end elite wins. KenPom has them going 10-8 in the SEC. I feel pretty confident Ole Miss is one of the teams that would get in at even 7-11 in the SEC, no matter who the wins are against at this point. Given the quality wins they already have away from home, if they just get 3 more wins, they are in 100%, regardless of who they're against.
Last question here, JBR. Again, I appreciate you joining us here. Go give him the follow at JBRBracketology. Does Texas get in at 7-11?
Texas, I'm going to say no, because they, like Vanderbilt, had a really bad non-conference. They also lost 2 games. They played 2 decent teams and they went 0-2. So that right off the bat is not a great spot to be in. Texas's non-conference strength of schedule, number 285. That definitely falls in the bucket of bad non-conference schedule that the committee likes to punish teams for. So I have Texas as number 42 overall, last 4 in. Texas is currently projected to go 8-10 in KenPom. If they get 8-10, they will be in. If they go 7-11, I'm pretty confident that they will be out unless they can secure a couple big ones. But they don't really have too many real elite matchups left when I'm looking at their schedule. They only play Florida once and they already played them. They only play Auburn once and they already played them. They only play Tennessee once and they already played them. And they lost all 3. So
Alabama would be a big home win.
Right. And so they get Alabama February 11th. But in terms of, those 1 and 2 seeds that can really move the needle, especially away from home, Texas either doesn't have those opportunities or already played them and lost them. So I feel confident that Texas needs to get to 8-10, which would mean that they need to go 5-6 over their last 11 games to get in. I don't think 4-7 finish, which gets them to 7-11 overall in the SEC. I really don't think that will be enough for Texas.
I said it was my last question, but I'm going to officially ask you now. Right now, on January 27th, 2025, how many teams do you think the SEC gets in?
I'm going to say 12. I don't remember how many I said last time, but I have 13 in the field as of today. I will say 12. I think someone between Texas, Georgia, and Vanderbilt will fall out, and I think the two others will get in, and then everyone else above them will remain in.
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma is an interesting one too. I have them there atop the 8 line. Their non-conference was awesome, right? They neutral court wins over Arizona, Louisville, and Michigan, all 3 top 7 seeds as of today. They get in SEC play and they start 0-4. They've steadied the ship a little bit. That was a big win on Saturday at Arkansas. I know Arkansas is shorthanded, but still, winning on the road at Arkansas is still a good win. And so, they're 2-4 now. They're projected to go 7-11. The big question is, does Oklahoma get in at 6-12? My personal opinion is that they do. And I know that there are a lot of people that probably think that they don't deserve to get in at 6-12. I think that they get into 6-12, but it would be a very, very nerve-wracking selection Sunday to go 6-12 in the SEC and, try to make the argument that you deserve a bid. But I think what they did in the non-conference would be enough, but it would be close. I'm not going to lie. It would be close.
You think 6-12 would be about Dayton, where they would be at that point? They're in a play-in game?
Somewhere around there. Yeah. 10 or 11 seed. 7-11, I think they're in for sure. Yeah. Probably an 8 or 9 seed. No question. I feel very confident they're in at 7-11, but 6-12 is the tricky one. I lean that they're in, but I admit it's close. And I also admit that the committee members are human and it is hard, even though they technically don't look at conference records. Like, if you follow the sport, you should know that Oklahoma,
yeah.
You should know that they went 6-12 because that's what anyone is going to be talking about. So it would be a highly contested placement for an Oklahoma team if they did end up going 6-12. So we will see.
No, we could talk about these seedings all day, but JBR, I appreciate you joining us, man. I appreciate you taking the time, guys. That's about as that's all the bracket knowledge you need right now, especially for the remainder of the week. We'll change tonight. Our guy's going to be cooking up some potion tonight and presenting it, I'm sure, here in the next few days. But we're going to get you back on here in the next 2 weeks when you got some more data, when you have some more data to keep cooking up for us, to give us some seed lines here for the SEC teams.
Yeah, definitely. I would be happy to join you again.
Perfect, guys. Again, go give him the follow at JBR Bracketology, guys. JBR, I appreciate you joining us, brother.
All right. Thanks for having me. Thanks.